Ed McKersie is the founder of Live and Work in Maine, a statewide initiative to increase awareness of career opportunities in Maine. The website and related efforts are focused on keeping young people here in Maine and marketing Maine as a career destination to job seekers around the globe and to those already here. The website was launched in November of 2015. Ed is also the founder and president of ProSearch Incorporated, a staff and recruiting firm. Established in 1994 in Portland, the firm is now the largest locally owned firm of its kind in the state of Maine, and as of 2017 is an employee-owned company. He is past president of the Human Resources Association of Southern Maine. He also served on the Maine Society of Human Resources Management Council, where he was charged with establishing the Best Places to Work in Maine program. This program, launched in January 2006, recognizes Maine-based employers that adhere to best practices when it comes to employee relations and human resource issues. He was inducted into the SHRM Maine Human Resources Hall of Fame in 2012. Ed has served on the University of Southern Maine Foundation Board since 2011 and was its chairman from 2016 through 2018. He also serves on the boards of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southern Maine, where he is also on the executive committee and is board chair of Ripple Effect. Ed is also a board member for Martins Point. He is a corporator both for Maine Health and Gorham Savings Bank. Wow, Ed has a lot going on. A native of Massachusetts, Ed graduated from Bentley University with a dual major in economics and finance in 1983, and he moved to Maine in 1989.
Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening.
So Ed, to kick things off, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Sure. So I've been in the recruiting business for about 30 years, the recruiting and staffing business. And as we like to say in our business, nobody goes to college to be a headhunter. So I actually grew up in Massachusetts, went to Bentley. At the time it was Bentley College. It's Bentley University now. And got out with a finance degree and took a job in finance on a traditional track and found myself pretty quickly really enamored by the business development and sales folks at the large company I joined, and got recruited, I guess a couple of years in, by Robert Half International, which is a big recruiting and staffing company, and started my career in Boston, and was one of 50 people in a, you see the movie Boiler Room where all the desks are banged up against each other, and did that, and really enjoyed it and decided I was pretty good at it. And they did not have an office in Maine, and I love Maine. So I went to the owner at the time and said, listen, I think we should open an office in Portland, Maine. It's a really nice market. And he agreed. So in 1989, came up here and opened an office for Robert Half, and then got recruited by one of their competitors that happened to be here in Portland. Actually, their headquarters was here in Portland. So I became a consultant for their expanding network of franchise offices around the country. So flew around, did some training, and then they were being taken public and moving down to Tampa. I had 3 young kids at the time, so the stickiness of Maine was there, and so really by default, I looked around and said, okay, what do I want to do at this point? And I decided to start my own firm. So ProSearch was born in 1994. And today we have 3 teams. We have a recruiting group. We have a what I call kind of traditional temporary staffing group, office support, customer support, that kind of thing. And then we have a IT contract team that places people. And our real focus is on Maine-based employers. So we're kind of all in on Maine. We recruit nationally, but all in on Maine. And it's been fun. When I started ProSearch, I really at the time I thought, boy, I really like this because I don't have to manage people. I just kind of, it's my own success. And then Maine has grown, so we had to grow. And so there's 12 of us at this point. So we're enjoying it. And I've had some interesting tangents along the way. I was one of the founders of Jobs and ME in 1999, and we sold that in 2005. And then was the founder of Live and Work in Maine, which is an initiative to try to raise awareness about the career opportunities here in Maine, and started that in 2015.
Well, that's been a very illustrious career you've had, and congratulations on starting a business and, seeing it thrive and grow over the years. And then, of course, I'm very familiar with Live and Work in Maine. I think it's a really fantastic organization. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Started it, as I mentioned, in 2015. And really the idea was, or the reason for it, if you will, my motivation was that I was talking to a lot of my clients, Maine-based employers, and in a tight market that was only getting tighter, especially in the technology sector, which is a big area for us. What I kept hearing was that the fact that they were in Maine made it harder to recruit people, that it was a small market and they had to import people. And you start to get to the point where the vibe, the conversation is almost negative, right? It's kind of, part of the problem is that we're in Maine. And I thought about that, and I thought, boy, I'm from Massachusetts. I got to tell you, you guys have this all wrong. And I'm also a recruiter, so I kind of understand how people are motivated and what job seekers are looking for. And so I remember somebody telling me after my long-winded launch into, what Live and Work in Maine was going to be, one of my clients said, so Ed, what you're saying is you're just going to change the conversation. And I said, there it is. So the idea behind it really was to elevate awareness that Maine does have a fairly robust employment market. And yes, we're small, so we're not trying to market ourselves any different than reality. But a lot of people from outside the state and certainly outside the region, when they think of Maine, they think of tourism, they think of pine trees and all the things that we know are great reasons to come here and visit. They don't necessarily think in terms of the quality of life. And that's a little different than why people come here, right, for a week or two. The quality of healthcare, the low crime rates, the relatively short commutes, the cultural opportunities in our cities, just great schools, and really world-class employers. I mean, when you think of a WEX or an IDEX or Jackson Labs or an LL Bean, these aren't just, first in class in Maine. These are world leaders in what they do. So, and we've got a robust entrepreneur market as well. So the idea behind Live and Work in Maine is really to just raise awareness, get out there, target people that individually employers were looking to recruit and recruit them more collectively. And it's been a fun ride. As you're aware, Nancy, we hired Nate Wilds, who's now the executive director. So I'm really an advisor, just on the advisory board at this point. But Nate and then Katie Shorey joined us recently. The two of them are just they're really doing a great job, and it's been a fun ride. And obviously, with our current situation with COVID-19, there's a lot of things that have been paused. They're continuing to do some virtual events and some online marketing. But I think overall, when we come out of this, I think more people from the Boston, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, name your big city, right, will probably take an even harder look at a place like Maine.
Yes, I think in many ways this COVID-19 experience is going to prove that we can all work remotely, and businesses are adapting. I know I've adapted with my own PR agency, and so many other businesses that previously thought they had to have everybody in one spot all the time in the office. I've learned that that's not necessarily the way. So I'm pretty excited about seeing how businesses do adapt permanent changes so that people, don't have to be in an office. And as you said, I think it will benefit Maine in a lot of ways. Because, young people, actually, I was going to say young people want to enjoy the quality of life, but old people want to enjoy the quality of life here too. I know I do.
Right. That's right.
So,
well, that's actually a topic that's just a lot of conversation about. It's this trend toward remote work anyway, right? And this has clearly accelerated that, and it's accelerated not only everybody's kind of getting over the fear of the technology and is it going to work and all that. So now we're doing all these Zoom calls and all, but it's also accelerating the thinking amongst senior management at these employers, right? That says, wait a minute, this fear that somehow employees wouldn't be as productive, or we need everybody in the office to kind of keep that team going. I think there's some cultural challenges if you're all working remotely, but I see, and I've actually seen this firsthand with several larger employers. They're polling their employees. They're looking at, how permanent might this be just for business reasons. The ROI on being able to skinny down your office space is real.
Exactly. Well, you've got 3 kids, probably in about the same age bracket as my 2 sons. And I actually have an opinion piece that appeared in today's Portland Press Herald about how I feel that in a way we almost raised our kids to adapt to this change, because the 20 and 30 somethings now, they grew up with this technology. So to be adapting to working from home or working remotely was not a big shift for them at all. And, I feel like it's a terrible thing that COVID-19 is happening, but can you imagine if it had happened in the 1990s, for example, before we were fully wired with the commercial internet, and if this had happened before we all really were adapted to Zoom technology and even email and other online technologies, it would have been a lot different.
No, agreed. I think, and to your point, I've got three young adult children in their 20s. They're all living in downtown Portland, separate from each other, but at Maine employers. And I think this generation, I know when they all got pushed to remote, they said, well, this is our opportunity to prove that we can be just as productive, because we don't get why we have to go to an office every day from 8 to 5, right? That's just because, as you say, they're more comfortable with the technology. So, my son especially is working for a startup, and he says, this is our opportunity to prove that we can be just as productive. And that doesn't mean work remotely full time, but I think where this is going to lead is, I don't see anybody going back 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. I think that what's going to happen is you're going to have more of what they call hoteling, these kind of common areas that you go back to in an office setting, and everybody will get one day that they can work remote, one day a week or something. I really think that's what's going to happen, and I think to your point about this generation, I think they're going to demand it. I just think they're going to look at this and say, why do I have to go back in? Why do I have to commute every day? So it's going to be an interesting conversation for the future.
Exactly. And, my next question has to do with a tip for social media or PR or marketing. And again, to connect with people. I know that Live and Work in Maine has done great things with their social media. And I imagine that you're doing that with your recruiting business as well. So can you give a how-to tip for your PR, marketing, social media, or even personal branding?
Sure. Yeah, I guess, from the ProSearch perspective, we've, our team's adapted really well, because I've got working moms, I've got working dads, and we've actually for a long time, just the culture has been very much, if you're meeting needs of our client and delivering for them, I don't need to see you in the office every day. So we've always had that flexibility. I think getting pushed to this, one of the things that we did really quickly was just over communicate, both internally. So we have a a weekly call with the whole team, and each team has a weekly Zoom call, and there's probably 6 or 7 different Zoom calls between the different subgroups of our team. But the other thing is, we've got a couple hundred people that work at our clients every day, our temporary employees and our contract employees. And one of the things we've always prided ourselves in is really staying close to them, making sure they're happy, because if they're not happy, our clients are feeling like they've got somebody that's not motivated. And so we've always seen that 200 people that are around the state that we never, we don't see them day to day because they're working at our clients, is a real extension of our team. And, I guess my tip is, over communicate. I actually launched a Facebook Live session. It's weekly. And what we're trying to do is bring everybody from career coaches in, resume writers. We've interviewed folks on my team just to kind of talk about what's going on and where we see things headed, and what people can do to kind of skill up during these times. I'm actually talking to Nate Wild from Live and Work in Maine later today. I do it on Thursdays at noon, and we're going to talk about the Opportunity Maine tax credit. So I see this as a time to just, especially part of our brand is We Are Maine. We're focused on Maine. Most of our competitors out of state are focused regionally and nationally. So I think by bear hugging those close to you, that it works. And we're doing the same thing with our client contacts, right? It's kind of tumultuous times for them. So we're certainly picking our spots and meeting them where they want to be, but we are really staying in touch with them and just letting them know that we're not going anywhere and we'll come out of this stronger.
Well, I think, you say over communication, and I think the person who is communicating the same messages over and over might feel like it's over communication, but the recipients are just going to feel like what you said, like a virtual bear hug, and I mean, everybody is afraid right now, afraid of the unknown. We've never been through a pandemic like this in our lifetimes. So in times of fear and uncertainty, people do need to be reassured by their leader. And actually, if they hear that their leader is feeling a little bit nervous and unsure also, there's a certain sense of comfort in that as well, because all of us are kind of navigating these uncharted waters, right down from our president to our governor and leaders of businesses alike. So I think constant communication is a really good way to reassure people and to be a good leader and to just show that you care about them. And again, I think that's part of the main way as well, is kind of being caring, whether we're the employer or a neighbor or a family member.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think a lesson learned for me was when we this first started to happen, and we said, okay, we need to over communicate. And our team leads were communicating with our temporary and contract employees, and we were we were doing one-on-one, right? One-on-one communication, one-on-one. So we were saying, boy, we're doing a great job because we're staying in touch with these folks. And then we got some feedback that was, we're not hearing a collective message. We're not hearing from Ed or from whoever. They're working at employers where the CEO is sending out a message to everybody, right? And I looked at it and said, well, wait a minute, we're light enough on our feet. We're connected enough with all these folks. We're going to have the people who day to day deal with them stay in touch with them and answer the questions and things like that. And the gaffe was they actually wanted that. I don't want to say generic email, but they wanted that broader based communication that they knew was going out to all 200 of them at the same time. So it's a lesson I learned through this.
So they wanted the broader group emails, not the one-to-one emails.
Yeah, they really wanted both, right? But the thing that that was the feedback. It's like, well, why, every employee of LL Bean is getting, an email. And here I sit as a contractor, and yes, you've been in touch with me, but where's the ProSearch email? Kind of your point about just wanting to feel like, okay, we're all in this together, right? That kind of tribal. And we thought we were doing that one-on-one really well, and I think we were. But what was missing was that collective hey, this is coming out. Here's what's going on from the CEO of ProSearch. Here's where we stand, and here's how you can reach me directly if you need to.
Right, exactly. Well, that probably gives a certain sense of organization, like, I'm part of a good organization that is communicating with everyone constantly. And so I can see how I think it is a good combination of mass emails that go to everyone and then personal as well, both emails and phone calls. When this whole thing started and everybody was working from home, I actually wrote handwritten notes in the mail to each of my employees and sent them each a gift card and asked them to spend it in their neighborhood at a local business. And that was kind of my way of trying to help support the local economies where my employees live. And I think they appreciated that, just to know that I was thinking of them.
Yeah, well, we've got 12 of us in the office, and I'll give you this story since you brought it up. So we have a what we call ProSearch Gives Back. So we have a way to calculate based on the number of hours our temporary and contract employees work. We come up with an amount every quarter to donate to nonprofits in Maine. And the time came up several weeks ago, and as I mentioned before, several of my employees have young children at home. So we came up with the idea that we give each child a $100 gift card, and they would come back and explain what they spent it on and why they made that choice. And then the next week, we put them in charge, and it was actually April vacation week. The parents clued me in on that because I'm no longer kind of following that on the calendar. And we said, okay, we have a little over $4,000 that we is in our program, and that we need to write checks out for nonprofits. And we put the kids in charge. And so we turned it into a family project. We said, we want you to do research on these 3 nonprofit organizations, and then come back on a Zoom call and explain how your family came up with who they recommend should get this funding. And it was fascinating. I mean, the emails I was getting from employees, and we're all friends, but I mean, they were just like, that just was genius, because it gave us something to do as a family. The kids were actually acknowledging, gee, we're not fighting with each other. We're actually, we've got this project and we have to deliver for ProSearch. So it was really well received. So, it's another version of what you're talking about, which is to just kind of humanize the approach.
Yes, and everybody felt like they were an important part of the tribe as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're doing PR, social media, or marketing for either ProSearch or any of your organizations you've been involved with, Ed, do you have a way of measuring success on how you're spending your time and money?
Yeah, I consider myself kind of a branding guy. So for me, it's more anecdotal. I just want to feel like we're fairly visible out there. We certainly have tools. It's not as much PR, but we certainly have a lot of tools in house to measure our effectiveness as far as outreach to client companies, as well as job seekers and people we have out working. I like Maine because it's a small enough state that I think that if you conduct yourself the right way, it gets noticed. We don't really do any formal press releases or anything about what we do, but we do use social media, Facebook, and even to a greater extent LinkedIn, just to stay connected. And we try to get stories out about what we're doing, so it's not all it's not an infomercial for ProSearch, but just trying to keep people engaged. And I think the Facebook Live has turned out to be really interesting. It's the reach there has been really, really good. We're getting great feedback on it, and we're asking people who they'd like to hear from, and what topics. So I'm kind of the moderator, but it's really not about ProSearch. It's more about what do you need to hear, who do you need to hear from in these uncertain times.
Nice. So you're using Facebook Live as a way to engage current and prospective clients. I haven't seen your Facebook Live, so describe what you're doing with that.
Check it out, Nancy.
Yeah.
So
I have time now.
Yeah, well. So it's interesting. So it's about 20, 25 minutes long, these segments, and really it was our way. So the first one I kicked off, I interviewed Dave Vasconcellos, who was our director of business development, right? So it wasn't really a ProSearch commercial, but it was, here's what we're doing. Let's talk to Dave about what we're hearing about. I mean, there's still some pockets of activity, right? So it's just a kind of, what's happening out there. But we really continue to throw out the request of, what do you want to hear about, right? So we feel like we're tapped in. We can get business leaders on. We can talk to human resources people. We can talk to, economists. I mean, who do you want to hear from? What's important right now? And the feedback has been, just continue to talk about the job market, but career coaches, folks that can help with your resume, folks that can help kind of navigate the market. Two target areas for us have long been people coming right out of college, right? Because, normally these folks are not quite sure what they want to do. So engaging somebody like us where they can try out different temporary jobs and kind of get a sense of different employers, different industries, different kinds of jobs. So we target those folks, and then we target folks returning to the marketplace. So somebody that maybe, you took 10 or 12 years to raise your kids and now you're back and you're a little concerned about, well, how rusty are my skills? What kind of skills are now in demand that I don't have? What skills do I have that actually are still relevant? And that's another kind of group of people that if they can get out there and do some temporary work, they usually are pleasantly surprised that they're still very valued and their experience is valued, and they can get back in the job market that way. So, those two groups through social media is really kind of, as I look at Facebook Live series over time, I mean, that's the target audience. And it's really so, whatever they're looking for, we've got some ideas what they want to hear about, but, career coaching and things like that is important to them.
So if people listening today want to tune into one of your Facebook Lives, how would they do that?
I think the simplest way is to search for ProSearch, and we post. Yeah, on Facebook and or on LinkedIn actually, because we post kind of the invites to these events. And then the nice thing about them, Nancy, is that they live on, right? So you might get 50 or 100 people who have been able to take the time, and it's at 12:10, so we're trying to do it around lunch hours, right? But live, people might chime in. You might get 50 or 100, but it really is keeping those alive on our website, keeping them alive on Facebook and LinkedIn, so people can watch them on their time schedule, right? It's kind of the Netflix model, and that we're seeing tremendous engagement. So it's really worked well, and again, then we get feedback on what future topics people want to hear about, and with the extension of the tax filing deadline, we thought it'd be great to bring Nate Wiles in and talk about the Opportunity Maine tax credit, because I think it's a great recruitment tool. But I think for young people that have student debt, if you're worried about your job or, worried about the economy in general, it's you've got time to take a second look at that opportunity.
Yeah. So tell me more about the Opportunity Maine tax credit, because I think people listening today might be interested in that.
Yeah, sure. So this is something that over a decade ago, the Maine State Legislature came up with this idea of offering a tax credit against student loans. And the original form was really to try to encourage people to go to Maine state universities. So it was really just restricted to if you had student debt coming out of a UMaine campus, you could get a tax credit for up to $400 a month for any student loan payments you've got. Now, what quickly became apparent was, wait a minute, this is a great recruitment tool. So they actually every year loosened the restrictions there. So it doesn't matter where you went to school. If you have student debt and work in Maine and therefore have Maine taxes, tax payments, you can get, I think it's still up to $400 a month as a credit. And that's not a deduction. I think that's important to know, right? So, the deduction is going to whatever your tax rate is, you're going to get that amount. But this literally is a credit. So if you've got $4,500 a year in taxes taken out, when you file, you can actually get that made back. So it's a powerful tool. It's something that Live and Work in Maine has been marketing because we think that's right in our wheelhouse. It's something that we can help attract young people either to stay in Maine or to come to Maine. So it's a really, really good program. And Nate has a really nice chart that shows that when we started doing this, there was, and I don't remember the numbers, but I think we've multiplied the number of folks applying and the number of credit dollars by 5 over the last 3 to 4 years. So it's been a fun thing to market. It's been a great tool, to use to market, recruit. And so it's also very complicated, and that's why I'm hemming and hawing a little bit. We actually have a 1-pager on Live and Work in Maine around this program, and we still have a number there that you can call the Maine Revenue Service, because as much as we try to wordsmith it and make it simple, like anything else that's tax related, it's not so simple.
Right.
So you have to look to see
but
if you're qualified.
The key message is that if you have student debt and if you like Maine, you should come work in Maine because you can get help with paying that debt down. So
that's right. Or not leave Maine. That's the other thing. We always talk about, the best recruitment strategy starts with retention, right? So if we keep the young people who are graduating and they're from Maine here, that's a win as well.
Right. Yeah. And congratulations to you, because your 3 adult children are all located in Portland, Maine now. That's awesome. Unfortunately, my 2 sons are both out of state. So especially during COVID-19, it has been hard not being able to see them.
Yeah, we've done a lot of Zoom meetings as a family. My folks are down in Massachusetts, so that's how we've been kind of staying together. But yeah, I can imagine it's got to be tough. We social distance with our kids a little bit, so we're somewhat closer in touch. So where are your boys?
One of them is a ski coach at Burke Mountain Academy in Vermont, and the other one is selling insurance in Newton, Massachusetts. So he lives in Brighton, Mass. So they're not too far away.
My dream job was always to be a ski coach, and I never did it. I just wanted to get out of college so quickly. I didn't do the 1 year off to be a ski bum. I should have done it.
Yeah. Well, both of my boys went to Carabasset Valley Academy at Sugarloaf, and so they were ski racers throughout high school and college. And my younger one, Jamie, has decided to pursue that professionally, at least for now. So it's great. Great. Yeah, it's nice for him. Well, Ed, this has been really great. We're going to take a short break and be right back. But I just want to tell everybody who's listening from PR Maven Nation that we have the PR Maven Podcast listener line, and you can call in at 207-620-9075 and ask me any questions or share feedback or ideas for the podcast, including future guests that you'd like to hear from. And actually, as Ed has been talking today about Live and Work in Maine, I think we're going to have Nate Waltz and actually Katie Shorey is another powerhouse in Maine who I would love to have as a guest as well. So we're going to take a quick break and be back with more in just a moment.
This podcast is all about growing your network in order to strengthen your brand. In my 30-plus year marketing and PR career, I have seen many organizations waste their precious time and money on marketing because they're trying to obtain success without any strategy to achieve their goals. So many organizations and companies suffer from what I call the shiny object syndrome, trying every new fad that comes down the pike. That's why I created the Marshall Plan 15 years ago. We have done over 100 of these plans for clients, helping them to get out of their day-to-day routine to identify their goals, solidify their brand story, focus in on their ideal customer avatar, analyze their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and create a realistic budget and measurement dashboard. We create the Marshall Plan collaboratively with our clients over the course of 3 months. We have a 65-step process to create a highly customized, actionable plan. And it's not like we come in and say, we are the consultants from away and we know everything. Instead, we come in and say, let's sit down at the table with your leadership team and we'll bring our expertise in what's working in PR and marketing. And our client team brings their knowledge of what's working in their organization. And together, we come up with a really amazing plan. For many, it's been a transformative process. I have watched how teams have come together and their faces light up because they have such a sense of accomplishment and they're so excited about the future of their organization. We help our client figure out the best way to implement the plan, sometimes using people within their organization and sometimes with our help. We would love to chat with you about how you can expand your network and achieve your marketing goals with a Marshall Plan. Go to marshallpr.com/MarshallPlan to learn more about the process, or better yet, send me an email at nancy@prmaven.com and we'll set up a time to talk and get started. And now back to our conversation.
Welcome back, and today we're talking with Ed McKersie, founder and president of ProSearch and Live and Work in Maine. And I want to dive back in with more questions. Ed, why did you decide to have ProSearch become an employee-owned firm? Tell us about that process.
Sure. Yeah, no, I like talking about this. So I started ProSearch in 1994, and we were an S Corp. Basically just means that, I was 100% owner. And along the years, ProSearch has candidly gotten much larger than I had kind of anticipated, mostly through just the great work that my employees were doing. And there's 12 of us now. And, I'm 58 years old and never really thought about selling the firm because I think you lose an awful lot of the magic of what we have. We've got very little turnover. Most of the folks have been with me for over 10 years. And that leads to, just really a great team. But I also had to think about, I could continue to just kind of run the company and take my distributions and profits out. But where and when does that end, right? So you have to kind of look at what does retirement look like, or what does an exit strategy look like? And the ESOP, an employee stock option plan, just seemed to make the most sense. I really believe that our success is collective, and I didn't want to sell and all the proceeds go to me and the employees kind of have to deal with, whoever the new owner is. And I think a firm my size, a lot of times you wonder, okay, can you sell this to the employees? Well, they'd have to take out a big loan and all that. And what an ESOP does, in real simple terms, is allow me to get the equity of the organization out and in a very tax efficient way and sell the company essentially to the employees through what's called an ESOP trust. So I no longer actually own the company. I do have a note that gets paid out over time, and the employees own the company. The other nice thing about it is, that we always had a strong culture, but that really made a culture, truly of ownership, and I think it's really accelerated our growth. But I continue to operate it, so I'm kind of the business person, if you will. But it really sets in motion for folks the sense that, hey, if I stick around, there's a nice retirement payday here. So it just turned out to be really a good fit for us, and it's worked out very well. So we're in year 3 of it, and it's I haven't seen any downside yet.
Wow, that's really great, because I can see how it would be an attraction tool, Ed, for people who want to feel like they're an owner. And I think that probably your employees take their jobs more seriously because they do feel like they have a a piece of the action, so to speak.
Well, it's confirmed. I know a lot of people talk about this, but we mean it. I mean, we're really long-term focused with our clients and job seekers and our temporary employees, right? So it's all around it's all around building those long-term relationships. And I mentioned longevity of our team, so it just kind of solidifies that there's value to that. And for them, they can take the long-term approach. And I think it gives them more credibility talking to our clients, when we're making decisions and trying to work through things with clients and job seekers, that, they're not kind of a hired gun or a salesperson, they're an owner. And it's worked out real well.
Well, congratulations to you on that, because I know it's quite a process to go through, and it's an investment on your part, but an investment in your future as well as the company's future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, as an aside, Nancy, it's interesting. We've got kind of this long-term team that's been around, and then because we've grown, we've added several millennials, right? So we've got three or four folks that are in their 20s, and I would have thought they would be the people who'd be like, oh, that's great. It's kind of like a 401k. It's just so far out in the future. Thanks, Ed, but I'm not sure this is very meaningful. And they're the ones that are really all in. And it's not that the others aren't, but I'm really, really pleased by how engaged they are in, what's the share price this year and how are we doing and what are the metrics to, drive value. And it's really been fun to watch.
Well, that's really awesome. I can just feel the excitement about it. So I think it's really interesting you went through the process, and congratulations on that. So, Ed, most successful people like you have a network of fans and followers, either online or in person or both. How have you built your network of fans and followers, and has it been a conscious goal or has it happened on its own?
Okay, so I'll start at the back end. Certainly not any sort of conscious effort. It's interesting when you look at like Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and not everybody, but a lot of people are kind of keeping score with how many people they've connected with. And certainly, early on in your career, I think that's important because you want to tap those people. I kind of look at it the other way. I don't know if I've built followers or anything like that, although I would like to think my team at ProSearch, kind of followers and we're all in this together. I kind of look at it more like I think I had really good mentors. I think I identified people that shared my values and, just latched onto them, asked a lot of questions early on. Sometimes, the answer was be patient. But, I think that probably for me was a more conscious effort, was to identify people that I could learn from, that had wisdom, that had gone through some things that maybe I hadn't yet. The fan follower piece to me is I'm less comfortable with, I guess.
Well, I'm sure that you have a lot of fans and followers, and I think it's all part of having a network, which I think it behooves us all to have a network of people who will be there to support us in good times and in bad times. So, I mean, right now during COVID-19, when people are feeling socially isolated, it's really nice to have, your family, your friends, your work friends and work family and your extended network to feel like you're part of something greater.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think that we're all in this together, whether it's, whether this is COVID-19 or just life in general, right? And, I've been involved in several startups, and one of the things we always say is, we want to be successful, but more importantly, we want to have fun doing it. And, you want to be working with people that you respect and, don't take themselves too seriously. And, again, just are, in it for the right reasons. And because otherwise, I mean, life's too short, right? to be stressed out about work-related things.
I'm just laughing because, we shouldn't be stressed out. But those of us who sweat the small stuff, which I'm sure you do too, I think we do get a little bit stressed sometimes.
Well, there's a responsibility too, right? I mean, we both own businesses, so yeah, I don't need to be flip about it. I mean, you've got a responsibility to all your employees and their families, and I just think how you conduct yourself is important too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ed, is there a resource such as a book, a website, or an app that you have found helpful in your career, and why?
It's an oldie but a goodie. But when people ask me this question, it's usually, is there a book out there that you've read? And I will tell you that I'll butcher the name, but it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you read that?
Oh, yes. I actually, when it came out, one of the recommendations was to actually go and teach other people about it. So I remember I went to a couple of elementary schools and talked about it to kids.
That's great. Yeah. No, I still think, and I'm sure that, if somebody reads it today, it'd be like, oh boy, that must have been, I get it now, but maybe it's not relevant. I think it's relevant. I think there's some universal lessons in it. I know Stephen Covey's written a lot of follow-up books and things like that. And I frankly have never read any other Stephen Covey books, but maybe it was the right place at the right time. But I think it helped ground me. I knew I kind of had certain values that my parents had brought me up with, but I think that the thing I took from that book was, that you can apply personal values and personal priorities to business and to your career. And so, again, maybe it was right time, right place when I read it. But when people ask me that question, that's where I go. And, certainly with all sorts of resources on the internet, I try to stay really connected, both what's going on locally in Maine, but just, more globally. But that book struck a chord.
Well, I think that's a very good recommendation. So thank you for sharing that. And Ed, is there a parting thought you would like to share with PR Maven Nation today?
I think what I would say, and I think you brought this up, is, even though we're social distancing and we're doing, podcasts like this, and we can't do it in a studio together or whatever, I hope people are able to put this in context. And, I hope people are safe and healthy. And I certainly know there are people out there that are really stressed out about, their career and in their job. But I hope somewhere along the line, you can see what a gift this is. I mean, if you've got kids at home, and you're working from home and you've got that opportunity, and yeah, it's stressful day to day. But, I think back to when my kids were that age, and I think, holy smokes, if I could have stayed home full time, and again, you're working, but you don't have a commute. So you're getting a couple of hours of your life back every day, and you can be spending that with your family. And I think, as you're pointing out too, re-engaging with friends and people that are important. And so hopefully wherever this goes, we actually come out of it a little bit more conscious of making those connections and how important those connections are to keep.
Absolutely. I mean, it just goes to the whole premise of this podcast, which is about growing your network both online and in person. And right now we have to use online networking tools a lot more than we normally do. So reaching out right now, I think, is really important to make sure people are okay, whether it's your family members or old friends. I got a call from my college roommate from Colby College, and we hadn't talked in a long time. And we just talked for about an hour and laughed and caught up, and it was just so heartwarming for both of us. So I think that, thinking about people in your network who you might not have talked to in a long time and connecting with them is really important now more than ever.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I've heard a number of stories like that where people have reached out and they hadn't talked for 5 or 10 years or whatever, and you've got a little more time, right? But I also think we're all much more reflective about what's important. And I've had a couple of high school friends reach out, and it's not that we lost track, but we weren't as quite as connected, and we're doing Zoom happy hours like the rest of the planet. And we've got my parents who are 89 and 91 down in Massachusetts connected to the technology so they can chat with with my kids, their grandparents, or their grandkids, once a week. So, yeah, I think that this is drawing us closer together in an interesting way.
I agree, absolutely. So, Ed, if people want to get in touch with you, what is the best way they can connect?
Email is really my preferred method. I'm one of those crazy people that can't go to bed at night if I've got any unread emails, which is unique. So Ed at ProSearchMaine.com is really that's my main email address, and I'm more than happy to answer questions or try to help out folks as they're looking at their careers. I'm now of an age that most of my referrals are not people my age, but they're children, which is great. It's fun to try to help them out and point them in the right direction. If I can't help them directly, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, Ed, this has been great. Thank you. I feel like we could go on and on, but I think that we'll have to have you back for another episode of the PR Maven podcast. And I'm definitely interested in talking with Nate from Live and Work in Maine. That's a great organization with a lot of vitality, and I think it's been a real asset to growing Maine's economy. So thank you for starting that.
Oh yeah, no, my pleasure. It's a lot of fun, and you're right. Nate's taken me to places I wasn't expecting it to go. So it's been great, and I'd be more than happy to come back. So look forward to that.
Great. Okay, and thanks for joining us today, PR Maven Nation, and I hope you have a great day.
That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.